Good evening, Yorick. If it is indeed evening for you, if it is not, well then, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. I still like to think of the idea, I know we discussed this last stream, Yorick, I still like to think of the idea of you that there is a non-shiny Yorick, which is like, I don't know, maybe like a brown colour. And like, the shiny Yorick is blue. Man, it makes me think of shiny Pokemon, actually, and like how there are many shiny Pokemon which are terrible color palettes. Some are very obviously deliberate. Everyone knows the red Gyarados and the shiny black Charizard, which are awesome looking. And then you have like the shiny Pikachu, which is just like the mascot of the series, and the shiny Pikachu is just like a slightly darker shade of yellow. What a disappointment. Just like me. That was a joke. I mean, I'm sure someone finds it disappointing. But that's okay. Yeah. Like, oh, actually, Gengar's up there. Gengar is very weird. Gengar is just like a slightly darker... He goes from purple to like a very like dark blue. Like a... Yeah, it's like a very dark blue. It's a really bad palette swap for it. I don't understand. Oddly, I don't know what Porygon turns into, though. What's Porygon's shiny color scheme? No idea. But that's okay. Porygon's great. I did see... There's a really cool... Okay, I've not played any of the Switch games because I don't have a Switch, but I saw there's a really cool animation for Porygon Z in Pokemon Legends Arceus. So if you don't know, Porygon Z, it was meant... So there's... In the original Pokemon game, there's Porygon. Its name is basically just a transliteration of the Japanese way of spelling polygon, right? But it's Porygon. Yeah, it's meant to be like a 3D being, a Pokemon made in three-dimensional cyberspace, and like an artificial Pokemon made in cyberspace, and it's very cool. Porygon, and then in Pokemon Gold and Silver, they had Porygon 2, which is like Porygon, but even more advanced, where he's no longer angular, he's been rounded out in shape to be more like a realistic 3D shape, I guess, and he's like better because of that. And then in Pokemon, not in the next games, not in Ruby and Sapphire, but in the next games after that, Diamond and Pearl, they introduced Porygon Z, who's meant to be like an evolution even further beyond. And this is to go even further beyond. But yeah, they introduced an evolution even further beyond in Porygon Z, or Porygon Z for anyone speaking American English. But I guess the Dragon Ball joke makes even more sense there, actually. Oddly, I still call it Porygon Z, not Dragon Ball Z and not Dragon Ball Z. I think Dragon Ball Z just sounds better. How are you doing? A mixed bag, Yorick. It's very rainy out here today, which is rather disappointing, so I've been stuck indoors all day. Due to some personal things going on, there's some things that are annoying me, and I'm not feeling great, because I don't really want to talk about them on stream, just because, it's not like doxy or anything, it's just... Oh, you know how it is. It's like, you don't want to talk about work with, like, people who you don't want to... You know, you ever have, like, you speak to your friends and you don't want to talk about work with them? It's kind of like that. But, apart from some things, I'm okay. I'm feeling, like, creatively charged lately. Very creatively charged. I'm working on a video at the moment, and I've been actually going hard on research the past few days for it, and writing some notes and scripting for it. So I don't know when that will be done. It'll probably take a bit, but I'm actually working hard on it now, and it feels good to actually be creatively charged to do something, which is very, very nice. Yeah. And, what else is it? Yeah. Oh, wait, no, there's something else I was going to say. Yeah, I'm in the middle of watching Epic the Musical. I got onto the part where Cersei has come in. Or I guess it's listening to Epic the Musical and watching animatics for it. But yeah, Cersei's just come in. I've been learning a few songs from it, and man, it makes you realize, damn, I'm out of practice with singing a lot. I need to get back into it. I'd love to find like a singing coach near where I live. I wonder if there's any nearby. I've tried looking in the past and I've not really found much, but maybe I can look again. Because that would be nice to do, right? Getting just some like singing coaching again. Just for my own sake more than anything else. But yeah, what was I going to say there as well? No, I think I'm okay for the most part. How are you doing, York? How is your little assistant going? I played web fishing with my... What's web fishing? Is that... Wait, actually, no, that does remind... I think it was in the streamer Small Ant. He made a YouTube video about it, where it's like Wikipedia speedruns, where you set a word for yourself and you're given a random article to start with, and you basically need to like go through different Wikipedia links to find to eventually reach the word, to reach the article which you want to get. And it sounds very fun. I don't know what web fishing is though. I never heard it. When you say web fishing, I think of like, is this some kind of like hacking thing, like a phishing scam? Though I guess that would be fishing with a PH for web fishing, wouldn't it? Though I guess it's all the same thing. Where did fishing with a PH come from? Was that an old spelling of fishing? In the same way that jail was originally spelled G-A-O-L, as in gowl? Like, gowl. Chill game about... I guess I meant chill game there. Chill game about... about fishing and other stuff. That sounds fun. Man, fishing is like always so much more fun in games, right? I remember my my first proper joy of fishing was in not Kingdom Hearts. God, not Kingdom Hearts. It was Final Fantasy 15. What happened with my hands? They had them out of their own. I swear, I wasn't doing anything, officer. That it was just my hands. The hands did, sir. The hands. Actually, that reminds me. I had an idea for a character the other day. It's like a character who's like gay, but they don't know it. And so they'll say things which make them seem like an aggressively seem like a hyper-aggressive incel, when it's just because they're actually gay. And I was like, dude, are you okay? And they're like, how gay am I? How gay am I? I'm so gay. Women don't even look at me. Okay, how gay? No. It's like, wait, how? Yeah. How, and it's like, no, I think you actually are kind of gay, dude. In the end of the day, it would be like stuff like that. And they're kind of like, no, how straight am I? Was it? Yeah, I can't remember. God, I fucked up the joke. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, that is so funny. But damn, I messed it up. Oh well. Like, how straight am I? How straight am I? Something like that. Yeah. Want to say something I've forgotten to say? It's okay, Yorick. I'm doing that 24/7. But you get the idea of the character. They're like in denial, and everyone else is being very normal about it. And it's like, dude, it's okay to like men. And and he's like, oh no, no woman will even look at me. No woman will even look at me. I hate women. And it's just like he's acting like a massive incel when he's actually just homosexual. And it's like, dude, it's fine. Hello, Rescue. How you doing, my friend? Memorial Day. Wait, is that in the US? I didn't know it was any kind of Memorial Day. Or is this a World War I or World War II Memorial Day? Goodness heavens me, I wasn't even aware of this. Who are we memorializing? I know, like, we have, like, in the UK, we have Remembrance Day, which happens, I think, on, like, it's the anniversary of the end of the First World War every year, where you take a moment of silence for all the soldiers in wars who have died and everything like that. Yeah. But I don't think we don't have Memorial Day in the UK, unless we do, and I'm just getting confused. Or is that an Australian thing? Maybe, I don't know. I know there's just it's like a Australia Day in Australia, but like a lot of like people who are descendants of like the native peoples of Australia call it Invasion Day. It's like, yes, fuck you. Listen, we lost, but fuck you guys. It's very funny. But apparently a lot of people like it. It's like a bunch of like flags and like rocket shows and fireworks and stuff like that. Rocket shows. Rocket shows, they're called firework displays. You fool. Look at this rocket show. Yeah, I hope you're doing well though. Well though, Rescue. I hope you're doing well. Wait, no, oh yeah, we're not fishing in video games. So yeah, my first time really loving fishing video games, Final Fantasy 15, where you have like fishing stats, and you have like different fishing rods you can buy which affect your skills, and different baits which are used to attract certain creatures. It's very, very fun. And I'd beaten Okami at this point, but I'd forgotten about the fishing, and now when I went back to play Okami again, I'm like, holy crap, the fishing in this was really fun. And yeah, fishing in video games is great. Did not like it in Stardew Valley though. I think Stardew Valley, the fishing is not fun enough to warrant how annoying it is. Listen, I know that a lot of people love Stardew Valley. Man, if I ever go back to Stardew Valley, I'd probably make a mod to change the fishing, because I fucking hate the fishing in that game. It's so boring. It's so annoying. It's just not fun enough. I don't know if I've done any fishing in Fields of Mystery, actually. I feel like I must have done a bit. No, I have done a bit, but I don't think there's any fishing minigame in Fields of Mystery. I think it's just like, yeah, I have been fishing, of course, yeah. Because you just like dangle it down and wait for, and like if you have like a boom, it's like Pokemon, right? If you have the exclamation mark pop above your head, you can like get the fishing, you can get the fish. But there's no fishing minigame, which is terrible. Which, honestly, is probably for the better. I'd rather have like no mechanic than a bad one. If they don't trust themselves to make a decent fishing minigame, that's fine. Though that game's also in early access, so maybe that will change. Who knows? It was actually really weird. I was in like a streamer's stream the other day, and I was asking them about Fields of Mystery, because they play a lot of farming games, and I questioned them, did you not like Fields of Mystery? And she said, oh yeah, I did, but I missed part of the stream, and I was with her. She was explaining how she didn't like the fact that, despite the fact that they're heavily marketing all the romanceable options, the game does very little to actually update any of the romance sections, and like that's very fair. But one thing, so I went back to the stream later on because I missed part of the stream and I wanted to finish it. And that section of the stream had been muted. And I don't know if that's because she was bad-mouthing Fields of Mystery or because something else had happened in that interim, which I couldn't remember. But it was muted, and like, does Twitch don't like it when you talk bad about video games? If I say that Assassin's Creed is corporate slop and you couldn't pay me to play that game, would I get muted for it? Like the newer ones, the older ones are fine. You know, I know a lot of people swear by Black Flag. Was it the fourth one? Yeah, Black Flag. At least the fourth mainline one. It's probably a mobile game as well. I know a lot of people swear by that one though, and say it's good. I never played it. I think I stopped playing it after Brotherhood or something like that. Brotherhood? Yeah, Brotherhood. Actually, no, I don't think I played. I think I played Assassin's Creed 1, which I thought was rough. Assassin's Creed 2 is very fun. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I think I watched my family members play it, but I never played it myself. But yeah. But no, we're on a fishing games, yeah. Like, is there like are there any like fishing RPGs? And this is like, is it Golf Story, which is like a golf RPG? There's been a lot of video games designed to make golf fun, like Golf with Your Friends, which is just like a weird physics-based golf thing where you play as the golf ball, essentially. And like Golf Story, which is an RPG all about golfing. And of course, there's What the Golf, which might be a fun game to play on stream. I've only seen a little bit, but it looks very funny. Where you where it's golf, but like every single golf course is different and has different rules, and very much changes the definition of what golf even is. I want like a game like that for fishing. That'd be really fun. What if I like go to categories now? I type in fishing. Fishing Planet. Fishing North Atlantic. Fishing SimWorld Pro Tour. Fishing Barents. No, I don't want like a realistic Fishing Paradiso. Fishing Paradiso. That sounds more like it. I don't want like a realistic fishing minigame, because real life fishing, I'm sure it's relaxing. I've never done it personally. I'm sure it's relaxing. Maybe you'll find it very boring. And you know, you can be there for hours and not have anything happen, right? Fishing in video games is so fun though. It's so relaxing, and you do get a payoff for it eventually. I think as well, when people go fishing IRL, maybe they're not in the best like fishing spots for it. I don't know. But yeah, I want like a fishing RPG game, unless there already is one, in which case I would be very happy to know about it. Yeah. I'm just looking at like Twitch and all the fishing mini games. There's a lot of like Japanese exclusive ones. Umi no Nushitsuri, Kawa no Nushitsuri, Hikyo o Motomete. Is this a whole Japanese series? Umi no Nushitsui. Umi no Nushitsui. Interesting. Yeah, it's a whole Nushitsui 64. Oh, this is a whole like. Oh, I have a phone call coming through. Excuse me for a moment. Sorry about that. I had an unexpected phone call coming through. That's okay. What was I saying before? Yeah. I want like a big old fishing RPG with like fishing stats and like different equipment and baits and the whole shebang. The whole shebang. And it'll be wonderful. It'll be magnificent. I would eat that game up. Though, interesting, I was playing Digimon Survive earlier today. That game is a very slow-going game. It's my third time trying to play through it and start it again. I tried it once on stream, once off stream, and now I'm doing it again. And it's a very slow-going game. You don't get very much payoff very early on, which, man, it really kills it for the first hour or so. But I'm gonna try and stick with it. I'm gonna try and get a little bit further in, at least until I get all the characters, because you don't start off with your whole party straight away, obviously, and like most RPGs. Actually, a lot of RPGs do give you the whole cast straight away. I know Final Fantasy 2 did, but actually, all the original Final Fantasies give you your cast straight away. Or at least Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, where FF1 you just pick classes for 4 characters, and you just get all of them. What are the classes you could pick? It was like fighter, monk, thief for physical classes, and then it was white mage, red mage, and blue mage. No, white mage, black mage, and red mage for magic classes, for magic jobs, yeah. And then FF2 did not have jobs, but instead you had this weird system where, kind of like what Elder Scrolls would do later on, where, so in Elder Scrolls you like, your stats level up depending on what you use. So if you get hit a lot, your armor stat raises, or if you use your weapon stats raise, or if you use your speech to go through things and your speech stat raises. FF2 did something similar to that, except it was extremely buggy and extremely exploitable. I don't know if any of the versions after the original are as buggy or exploitable. I'm interested in seeing that. I also know that when I originally played FF1, I played the PSP version of it, because my mentality was, listen, I can understand wanting to play a game close to the original, but my god, I'd rather play like a fun game than a dysfunctional one, even if it loses some of its authenticity. It's my understanding the PSP version is kind of just like an upported version of like, what was it, Final Fantasy Advance? Which is the Game Boy Advance versions of them. Which, yeah, I'd more willing to do that than anything. But yeah, I don't know how FF2 works on them. Maybe it works the same way. I just know that FF2 is a broken mess of a game, but it's broken in a way which means it's very exploitable. In the same way how Final Fantasy VIII is very exploitable as well. One thing I didn't know about Final Fantasy, so I got Squall. I've not beat FF8 yet, but I stopped playing it a while ago actually. Like, I need to get back into it. But Squall, I got Squall at level 99, and I didn't know this, but the game scales with your entire party. So I got into level 99. It doesn't really do anything because it doesn't really raise his stats at all that much. And all it scales scales with him. So yeah, Switch 2 launches next week. I thought it was gonna be like, I thought it was in summer. Maybe I'm getting confused. Damn. Hang on, what of the games that they showed are available on launch? Is Bravely Default Remastered available on launch? Because I saw that they actually have some new features for it. I will not buy a Switch 2, not until I don't need. First, I should ask: are the games on? Commodore? Commodore, why? Commodore, why? Also, now this section of the VOD's gonna need. I should probably change that, right? At the very least, I should change like the audio track from it, because it's like, I need to find a way to change it. I don't know if my setup would allow it, my current audio setup, but you can like change the audio tracks from the background on. Oh, great! This is really cool. Rescue's in green, Yorick's in blue, and Commodore, you're in red. That's very cool. Nice. You're all like the primary colors. Oh no, I guess green isn't a primary color, is it? It's like a, but you're RGB at least. Primary colors are cyan, yellow, and magenta, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Well, at least that won't get the VOD muted, I guess. But anyway, what were we saying before? Yeah, so Switch 2's next week. What games from the Switch 2, which they already announced, are available at launch? Because I saw that Bravely Default 2, I didn't know this. Bravely Default 2, Bravely Default Remastered is actually getting new features added to the game, which I am intrigued by. And I very much like, okay, first off, has anyone here played Bravely Default, the original on 3DS? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Because, okay, I have like, when I initially heard, I got a Bravely Default when it came, I think the Christmas that it came out. I thought it first came, no, Bravely Default was a 3DS game. It's actually kind of a spiritual sequel. It's called, okay, there's a game on Nintendo DS, which I also played a bit of but never completed, called Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light, or Four Warriors of Light, I can't remember. But, wait, Silksong actually had a full-on release date announced. I thought that was a joke. No fucking way. Are you fucking serious? No fucking way. Silksong release. Wait. Release window. No. No, don't. No, it says release window has been. It's confirmed for 2025, but the release date has not been announced. Dude, thing is, if the official release date had been announced, I would have known about it because there are so many Hollow Knight channels that I watch. I wouldn't have missed that. That would be like if Kingdom Hearts 4's release date got announced and I wouldn't have missed that. Damn it, Yorick. According to this is a video here from YouTuber Kadea saying the release window has gotten smaller. And everyone in the comments is joking, saying release date sometime between May 19th, 2025 and the heat death of the universe. Okay. They seem to say that on the same day as Switch 2. I could be wrong. No, it was shown in a very brief B-roll of the Switch 2 games. But no, it's not. They were not announced the release date. Yorick, don't ever do that again. Don't. Yorick. Don't do that again, my boy. I implore you, do not get my hopes up so much. Never again. Right, well, now that's out of the way. Now that we're all on the same page there. Holiday release date mostly. Okay. This is something. Obviously, there's only 3 people here, right? So maybe this isn't like the best thing to ask, but like, do you think it'd be good to stream Hollow Knight Silksong? Because it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Because obviously, I've been waiting for it for a long time, even before I started streaming, right? And like, is it something? For one, would Hollow Knight be a good stream game? 2, would I find it enjoyable to stream? Because obviously, there's. Much like anyone who plays a Souls game on stream, there are a lot of people who are wanting to spoil the game. Pokemon as well is very good. If someone's like, oh, first time playing Pokemon, someone's going to spoil it for you. And I understand that a lot of it is like people being excited and wanting to see you wanting to say, oh, have you gotten this far? I'm like, but also like people on Twitch are retarded idiots and cannot read. You can put in big letters, no spoilers, or I will kill you. And they won't read that. They just, so it's like, do I want to play a game where I know someone will spoil it for me? Or do I want to play that game in my own time? I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? I get what I'm saying. God, it's just... the amount of times I've been like, oh wow, someone's playing poker the first time, and I see someone in the chat like, oh, X person's the gym leader, and it's like, why would you fucking say that? Why would you say that when this is the first time playing it, and it's like, there's just no spoiler warning there. It's like, can you... read! Like, come on! Listen... I don't care if English isn't your first language. Why are you watching an English streamer? You know? Like, if you can't understand, no spoilers. Why are you there? Come on, people. God, it annoys me to no end. The idiocy of some Twitch chatters. Oh, I'm sure you guys have seen it, right? You guys, like, and people are like, what have I walked in on? It's like, can you not read the title or see what's happening? Are you blind? Are you deaf and dumb? Are you lame? Are you one of these people in the Bible that Jesus would need to come and like give them the magic touch to heal them? And so, oh wow, everything's so wonderful now. Thank you, Jesus. And Jesus would be like, no worries. And then goes off and then gets like crucified by the Romans. You know, crucifixion was an extremely painful process, by the way. Like, a lot of, like, Christian art really, like, downplays just how brutal it was. Like, you'd be, like, marched through the streets and whipped. Oftentimes, these whips would be, like... well, all carrying your cross, by the way. Oftentimes, these whips would have, like, things in them, like bones or, like, shards of stuff to, like gash open your skin, and would you like have infections from it as a result. When you would be stuck to the cross, it wasn't nailed to your hands, it was nailed to your wrist. So like you would destroy your wrist, so you wouldn't be able to move it, and you'd be stuck to it like that. And basically, this is your entire body weight being held up by 2 nails stuck into your arms. So it would have been an extremely painful process to even just be up there, right? Excruciatingly painful. If for some reason you were actually in the extremely unlikely case as well, you're actually pardoned from crucifixion, you're able to let go, you would either, one, probably die from your injuries, right? The pain, either the pain or the infections caused by all the injuries you received would kill you, or you would live, but you would not be able to use your arms again. It would be like in the olden days, if you shattered your kneecap, right? Even nowadays, if you shatter your kneecap, it's extremely difficult to be able to get any kind of normalcy in walking again. But back then, it would have been completely impossible, right? So, like, yeah, it would have been, ooh, not a pretty picture. But yeah, that's crucifixion. There's some other stuff as well, but it was an extremely painful process. It was all like humiliation as well as pain. To give you a long and torturous death. It was a bit of a show, honestly, for the people involved. Bit of showmanship involved as they'd be paraded through the streets with the crosses on their back. Right, these are like giant wooden crosses, right? These are huge. They're extremely heavy. And you just had to carry it on your back. So yeah, not an easy thing to do at all. Not an easy thing at all. But yeah. How did we get onto this from Silksong? Do you think there'll be fishing in Silksong? That would be fun. We could have like bugfish. You ever think about what would happen, like bugs mixed with other things? I think of like bug dragons. I thought of a cool idea for a monster called a hive dragon, which is like a queen bee mixed with a dragon. And I think that'd be a really cool idea. I was thinking, so like, I like thinking of card games. And like, what I thought for a while, I'm like, I've never like probably put it into practice, but I've always thought of like the theories behind how to design a card game. And like, if I ever made a card game, I'd want like a hive dragon as a creature in it, as a monster, just a big old fucking dragon mixed with a bee. And then they could like blast honey or something. The bees shoot honey? They don't shoot honey. They produce honey. Some dude told me Sakamoto beats Yujiro easily. Mr. Bean, first off, thank you for joining in. That's a blow in the horn because it's your first time in the chat. Second, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I assume you're trying to spoil something for someone, but I don't know what any of those words mean. Is this a Jujutsu Kaisen joke? I don't know. Is Sakamoto Days reference? I've read some of the manga of that. Those two different guys are from different shows. Excellent. I was thinking Sakamoto. Is that Sakamoto and Sakamoto Days, or is like maybe these sound like a Yu Yu Hakusho situation? Actually, I've never seen Yu Yu Hakusho either, though I've always wanted to. Man, I bet. Okay, I really like Shaman King, so I bet like I really enjoy Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, Shaman King is fantastic. It's a shame. Oh god. The thing is, now whenever I bring up Shaman King, I think of like the Shaman King reboot and how it sucked, and it's like, damn. There's a really good YouTuber called Hiding in Public, who had a great he made a video when the reboot was announced. I was in like I was so excited I was in like tears when the reboot for Shaman King got announced, the anime for it, and when it came out, man, the disappointment I felt could not be more palpable. Like, the air was just like a thick miasma. That's how it felt like watching that series. It was crushingly bad. It was crushingly disappointing to see this thing that you've loved your entire life. Or at least, for me, I'm a couple hundred years old, so on this cycle of life, I've loved it all that time, and like, to see it come out and just be that. So underwhelming, so... I find it very ironic that for a series all about ghosts, the Shaman King reboot had no soul. It was very, very disappointing. Yeah, I mean... So, when I initially watched it, right, so, actually, no, first of all, before that, yeah, so this, YouTuber called Hiding in Public had a really great point about it, where when it was initially announced, he talked about it in like a Shaman King, the series robbed from greatness. Hello, Buster. How you doing, my friend? It was the series robbed from greatness, right? And he did like a... What do you call it? When... A post-mortem, I guess. A post-mortem of the series. And he said this one line, which I think resonates with me to this very day, and probably will do for the rest of it. It's like... Shaman King wasn't good, right? This sequel wasn't good. But the point was so many series would kill for a second chance. What makes Shaman King deserve a third? And as much as I love that series, as much as I love it to death and back, it doesn't. It just doesn't, right? They had one chance to bring it back and bring it into the forefront of greatness like it deserved, and they fucked it up. It will never get that chance again, nor should it. Which is a shame, and that I'm sure people think, you probably don't even like Shaman King that much if you say that. No, it's because I love it that I know that what that statement is correct. So many would kill for a second chance, what makes it deserve a third. Or in High School Host Club, fantastic series. Finished, and many people have said, man, it'll be great if this series would get a reboot of some kind. Never got one. Probably never will, but who knows. When Shaman King came out, I was very excited for it because I had a friend at the time, and she got me into Fruits Basket. And Fruits Basket is a very good series, by the way. Fruits Basket is a very good series, and it got a reboot. And I'd watched the original one, and then I found out about the reboot just after I'd finished it. It just got announced just after, and like, yeah, man, that's why I've been so excited recently. Like, oh, sick. And I have problems with the Fruits Basket reboot. I think it does a lot of cliches in terms of like trying to get some like emotional empathy from you. But overall, I think it's like a decent show. I think the original has more character, But I think in terms of like finishing off a story and giving you a good story, I think the reboot was fine. I think it was good even. Cannot say the same for Shaman King. I got like 5 episodes in and I'm like, this is a hollow work. This is hollow. If I wanted hollows, I'd go and see Bleach. The 3D attack for cool Porygon is just gambling for real. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like those old Pokemon cards, which are just kind of more gamble focused. Though, man. Okay, Buster, I don't know if I talked to you about this. Maybe I had them before as well, but Mr. Bean, by the great show, Mr. Bean, by the way. Excellent show. Pokemon, the card game, is a game I've always really tried to like. Even back in the days when I didn't know how to play it, and I was not very good at card games, but I learned, and people I knew would always beat me at them. I've since learned how to play the game. I have really, really tried to like the Pokemon TCG, and I just don't. There are a lot of mechanics in it which I think are interesting. There are also a lot of mechanics in it which I find needlessly frustrating. I think the idea of prize mechanics, the prize card mechanic, is terrible. I think Pokemon is a game which I find to be one... Well, no, that is true, yes. Not knowing game is the best excuse for not being able to win. But even now, I'm just like, okay. I don't like it. When you win, you feel better. When you lose, you don't feel better. You don't feel as bad about it. Yeah. The thing is, I also don't think that's good. I think I'm like... Has anyone ever, like, oh, I want to play a fighting game with someone. You've asked your friend who doesn't know anything about fighting games. Here, play it. We'll just play it together and just press buttons and you win. And you beat them. And then it's like, well, of course you won. You're playing a game you've not taught them the rules for. And it's like, yeah, you don't feel good about winning. If you do, you're a scumbag. But I'd rather teach someone how to play a game rather than, like... I'd rather teach someone how to play a game and have a fun game rather than just, like... Okay, we're going to play this game, I'm not going to teach you how to play, and I'm going to win. That's just, what a shit way to win. What a shit victory. At least want a bit of struggle in there, you know what I mean? You want the victory to taste sweet. TBH. Sneak dissing. I was going to say that about Pokemon. Yeah, so I don't like the prize mechanic. Like, Pokemon I find to be a game which is already extremely prone to snowballing, where... You set up your one guy, and then he will just continue to just destroy everyone. And obviously, there's counter plays you can make, and a lot of it is all about knowing when to swap guys in and when to bring them out and all that, and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you set up one guy, he or she or whatever, the Pokemon will break through all your opponent's Pokemon, and then after they've done that, you get a prize card. You beat their Pokemon, so you win, and then you get an extra card, so you win more. The prize card mechanic is a win more card. In a game already prone to snowball effects, this just assists you in snowballing even further, and I really don't like it. It's a really bad mechanic. I say mechanic and decision. Baki explained on how you can imagine having 40,000 joints and punch people at the speed of sound. I know some of the crazy stuff which happens in Baki. I have never read it, nor watched any of the series for it. It looks insane, though. I feel like Baki would be a fun romp. No, I know there's some... what is it? I know there's a bit where like a caveman fights some like trained martial art. They like unthaw a caveman to see who will win the fight, and it's like, okay. Yujiro is the dad of Baki. Oh yeah. I know everyone's like, yeah, he's kind of a Giga Chad, even though he's a terrible human being. Meister, I should hope you didn't kill anyone. If you did, I should hope that you wouldn't specify that to everyone and make us accomplices in your murder. You harlot. You fiend and villain. Apparently we're talking about Baki, the grappler, as opposed to Baki, the shoe salesman, or Baki the farmer. Does Baki do farming? I feel like Baki would do farming as like training. Kind of like how like in Dragon Ball, when Goku and Krillin first get taught by Master Roshi, and they do all these like daily chores, like carrying milk cartons or bottle, like 3 bottles of milk, no, 3 boxes full of milk bottles, or something like that it was, and with progressively heavier weights and having to balance it all and not break any of them, stuff like that. I'm not gonna say what he did. I know, I've heard some of the things Yujiro has done for people I know who have watched it, read it rather. I feel like more people have read back. It's considering there's no full adaptation of it really. It's better to read it. But yeah, Baki is a series which is probably better to read. But yeah, I know he's done some messed up stuff. I also know he like makes most US presidents his bitch. Which is a very funny ongoing joke, which I really like. I think it's hilarious. They're just scared of him. Yeah, he's a one-man army, isn't he? Yujiro stopped an earthquake. Damn. You see, you mentioned that. Okay, so that reminds me. One of my favorite books of all time is my favorite book series is the Earth-Sea cycle. There's a story in that all about how these wizards have to stop an earthquake, and it's this whole big thing. And apparently, you're just saying, no, this guy, this normal human man who's just raised himself to the peak of physical violence, just stops an earthquake just because he can. It's like, okay, great. And like the power scaling in Baki is just completely ridiculous though, and like it's all kind of like all fun and games though, isn't it? It's very like ridiculous on purpose. And you know, even like the proportions, obviously there's a lot of like hyper exaggerated musculature in it, which some people find very grotesque. And I think it's kind of deliberately so. Like these 3 people are not normal in the slightest, and to the point, yeah, they do have this grotesque musculature. Hang on, no, you can't have the villain get progressively stronger. That's not fair. That's not even fair. You need to have what? The One Piece! The One Piece is real! Okay, can I say something? Buster, you'll be aware of this, because I've said it to you before. I have a... I have a tertiary knowledge of everything which has ever happened in One Piece. I know which has happened in One Piece. Actually, not the most recently. Thank you, Mr. Bean. You know what? Blow on the horn for following. Okay, so I've never watched one. Actually, no, I've watched a bit of the beginning of One Piece. I never got very far in One Piece though, but I know most of the things which happen in it simply because my brother is a massive One Piece fan, and he actually lives in Japan at the moment, and whenever we have a call or a catch-up or whatever, this is kind of become a tradition over the past few years now. He'll give me a catch-up on everything which has happened in One Piece, and I'm like, wait, but I thought this character was a blah blah. I'm like, oh no, this blah blah blah. And he explained to me how like the whole like Joy Boy situation, and I'm like, whoa, and yeah, and like how like Luffy's the new Joy Boy, and like he can now like not just change his own body into rubber, but everything is basically like a Rubber Hose cartoon now, where he can like stretch everything out. As long as it's comical, he'll do it, essentially. Who's a stronger punch? Dressrosa Arc King Punch or Galaxy Divide Old Garp? See, I don't know the specifics of that. I'm not that well genned up on the power scale. I know the power scaling has gotten whack though, because like now it's like basically only Luffy can really go up against anyone, and all the other characters can't. I don't like that. I understand that some characters have never been as like combat focused as others, like Nami and such like that. But like now it's like everyone is like so ridiculously powerful that only Luffy can get involved in fights realistically, and I kind of don't like that. I think that's very bad writing. And granted, I also think it was a very poor decision to have a massive timescape where everyone was away from each other, and then like relatively soon afterwards have all the crew split back up again, as like one of them throws it, like 4 of them go to Whole Cake Island, and the rest of them, wait, who goes to Whole Cake? Sanji gets taken there, Nami goes, Luffy goes, Brook goes, Just Chopper. Yeah. And everyone else goes to, what's the samurai place called? It's based in, like, old Japan. Either way, they all go there, and I'm like, I don't like that. In a series meant to be focused around camaraderie and friendship and all that, you already split them apart once. For a long time, by the way, might I add. Like, not all the guys get sent away, and then it's basically just focused on Luffy in prison world. Luffy's adventures in prison land. And then you finally bring them back together, only to split the crew apart again fairly soon afterwards. I think that's a poor decision. Isn't the time skip longer than the adventure itself? I couldn't tell you. I think the timeline for events within the actual main story is, like, not relevant, basically. It's just, like, an inexplicit amount of time. You should never muscle you above the entire cast in power. Guess what's the best? I know there's a guy who can suck out your organs. I think that's, like, the grossest and funniest thing. He, like, sucks out your... Is it, like... I think it's, like, covered in, like, the series Baki. It's just called Baki, and, like, all these escaped convicts, the most deadly killers in the world, break out of prison, all to challenge Baki. And one of them can just, like, suck out your organs through any kind of orifice in your body. And I think that's so gross and so funny. Schizophrenia, fart flying, multiplying joints. That is so funny. Fart flying and multiplying joints are such funny abilities. I just know what showery is. So I couldn't tell you if that's the best ability or not. Though, fart flying makes me think of that... Oh, what's the new Monster Hunter game which came out? Is it Monster Hunter Wilds? I didn't play it, but in that there's that monkey creature which attacks you with, like, massive fart clouds, and I think that's disgusting. Basically the thing used by Kakukayo. Kaioken! Schizophrenia is correct, or farting is correct? I'd like it to be the latter, because that's far funnier. At this point in the stream, someone redeems the fart command and plays that. Any second now. Any moment. Just give them a second. It will happen. It always has to happen. Surely, no one will not let it happen. Please. Commodore, are you still here? Please play the redeem. Don't make the joke go on without a punchline. You wouldn't do that to me, would you? You wouldn't do that to little old me? That can never be funny. You can imagine you're fart flying with schizophrenia. Damn, that's... I mean, you can also just imagine your fart flying with imagination, I guess. But what do I know? I'm just an anime boy on a TV screen. Or a computer screen. What an odd sentence. Okay, thing is, I say that, I imagine, like, most sentences you can use to describe anything which happens in Baki is just like a weird fever ride. It's just like it's like an odd sentence which makes no sense outside of the context of it's Baki. In which case, anything goes, I guess. You could say, yeah, someone punches someone so hard they make a nuclear explosion, and they became immune to fallout. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That's Baki. That flies. But said man also gets beaten by the world's greatest ice skater in a fight because the ice skater is just a much better fighter than he. So yeah, that's Baki. Sure, why not? It's Baki. One dude got hit by the most poisonous virus. So funny. Actually, I think it would class as venom. I drank some old water after a random Chinese dude put his hand there. And went Kaioken. Is that just like racism, or is that just like the Chinese dude had poison powers? He had like the power to toxify any kind of water body. Baki himself. Wait, Baki himself is Chinese? What? What? There's no race in Baki. Everyone is equally fodder. Okay. I like that. One day I'll get around to reading, but I say that, but like, okay. I was gonna say that maybe one day I'll read Gantz, but I probably wouldn't read Gantz. I think Gantz is such an exercise in it. I think at this point in my life, I think I'd find Gantz an exercise in misery. But maybe I'll read Baki. Baki's like insane enough to be ridiculously funny as well. Right? But the best waifu put his hand in that water. I'm surprised there are even women in... Okay, I know there are women in Baki, right? But like... Forgive me if I'm incorrect on this, but I assume that all the women in Baki are simply there for Yujiro or Baki to get down with. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's some sick women fighters in there as well, in which case that's fair. Everyone, they're still fodder, I guess, for anyone infinitely stronger than them, particularly Yujiro. But yeah, everyone is a woman. Literally, he sees men as women due to how Giga Chad he is. What does that mean for him? I guess you're not meant to like Yujiro, are you? Yujiro is ultimately a douchebag. You're not meant to like the guy. Who tight to see Gojo's Infinity. Oh, I've also not seen Jujutsu Kaisen, so I don't understand how that power scale works. My brother, who's also the One Piece bro, he has also told me about how he got very annoyed with Jujutsu Kaisen as powers just didn't make any sense. They just kind of introduced new concepts. Like, you're just throwing out new names and you're not doing anything with you're not explaining what they are. They're just naming new shit. And it's like, okay. Great stuff. I love that. I love it when you just throw out random names and that's the whole thing. And because that's how powers work. Yeah, but man, fun fact. I'm always up for a fun fact, Mr. Bean. It feels weird calling you Mr. Bean, because then I'm just thinking of you like Rowan Atkinson. Yujiro drinks... Okay. How's that fun? I think I can name at least... Okay, I would say at least 3 people I know. I don't know 3 people. I know maybe 2 people who would drink one. We call them... Wait, when you're saying soda, do you mean like particularly cola? We call them fizzy pop or fizzy drinks in the UK. But, okay, I don't like cola flavor. If I'm ever at a party... Okay. In the theoretical universe where I attend a party, and the only things to drink are cola and water, I'll just have some water. I can drink cola, I just don't like it that much. Opens liquids by literally just putting his hand on the bottom of the bottle and separating it. As in, he drinks it with his palm. That's very funny. That's very funny. Does he just like absorb it through his skin? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like in like JoJo Stardust Crusaders, where nah, but some dude was so poisonous. You can't just put the sentence like that. You can't just put the sentence like that and leave me hanging on it. No, it does remind me of like Stardust Crusaders though, where like Jotaro's Star Platinum just gets new powers for whatever the situation demands. It's like, yeah, I can like extend my fingers by like an extra few centimeters now to jab you in the face, just so, which will stun you long enough for me to just deck you to death. And it's like, okay, sure, have your magic finger extension. Yu-Gi-Oh! Would shake at a frequency of 56 millihertz. Millihertz or megahertz to nullify the time stop in just one-shot Dio. Megahertz, okay. Is that how it works? I don't know. Actually, hang on, where is like Baki even published? What's the publication for it? I was wondering if you ever have like a Shonen Jump All-Stars game again, would Baki be in it? I know he's like the end goal, but that's bullshit. You can't have the main villain get progressively stronger. Well, I guess you can. Man, that reminds me. They showed like a new teaser trailer for the new Spider-Man film, and I guess that this Into the Spider-Verse film. Is it Beyond the Spider-Verse? The third one it's gonna be called. And I guess like the main villain in that, the Spot, is all about he's getting progressively stronger. They need to stop him before that happens. He's just a dude. He's chill. He's not even a villain. He's just a dude. He's chilling. No. No. You can't just say chill, you. What's going on here, buddy? You sure about that? You sure this guy's just a chill dude? I don't think he's a chill dude at all, my guy. He's kind of an asshole. Yeah. I know he's like the final. He's essentially the final boss. He helped a man discover his inner woman in a very. Did you write sentence was blocked, or was that like auto-modded in? Did you... What? I typed that. Oh, okay. Oh, he pegged him. Right, I see. Well, I guess you can't say that Baki isn't, what's the term? Oh, the music died? Baki isn't, you know, it's for everyone, I guess. Wherever you are in the world, all shapes and sizes, all colors, all creeds, you're all equal in the eyes of the Bakis. Called Peggle? Yes, Peggle, that's a game. There's a 3-meter tall dude in Baki. That's very funny. No, I know Peggle. I know... There was like a weird thing where everyone was obsessed with Peggle for a while, even though the game's pretty old. There's a streamer I watched. She got like a fan game made called Peggle, which is all... The joke was a peg joke. But like that was the joke of it. I'm like, that's very funny. The joke is that she could never do that in real life. She's like the most pathetic little bottom you've ever seen. But hey, you know what? Let her dream, I guess. You have that dream, girl. And let it remain a dream. I think, okay. When I think, you say 3 meters tall, I think like Digimon and how like inconsistent the sizes for people in Digimon are. Especially like humanoid Digimon, right? I think like Angemon and stuff like that. And like, there are like so many Digimon which are just like inconsistent in height. And like, I really wish there was some height consistency in Digimon. Like if you want like humanoid Digimon like larger than average humans, like if you want to make a Digimon go 2 meters or 3 meters tall, that's fine. But like, make it a rule. Rule it to such, right? Use yours are the... I think I hate Baki. I hate size inconsistency. It's like, it really irks me. Oh. It really irks me. I just don't like it. I do not like size inconsistencies in my media. I understand as well, it's probably done for effectiveness. From like you want him to look very imposing, and so you'll draw him much bigger than he normally is. 10% done, then 10 times. Yeah, no, it's all about, I guess, like, yeah, what the artist wants to show. They want to show him as really large and intimidating. They'll just draw him that. And I understand the art, and that's completely in your own artistry to do that. It doesn't mean I have to like it. Okay? It doesn't. Again, I'm a big Digimon fan. There's two Digimon here, Bakemon and Soulmon, which is just Bakemon with a hat, and I think that's the funniest thing ever. I just hate it when sizes aren't consistent. Steven Universe did that a lot as well. I never finished Steven Universe, and honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to. But they couldn't be consistent with their sizes. Just like how like general scaling is like X character is bigger than Y character. Randomly on YT so that Yuja did so much PP training that he lost it. Is this random dude on YouTube in the room with us? Can he give us the reasoning for it? Does he have the evidence to explain that he has lost his PB? Or is he in the room with us now? There's like 7 million views. Okay. Oh, Becky, man. Okay. I think we're gonna leave the Baki talk on there because I did have another goal this stream. So, recently on stream, I've been reading through the original book of Bambi by Felix Salten. So I wanted to finish that because we're almost done with the book now. I figure for the rest of the stream, maybe we can just finish off reading Bambi as like a nice, cozy evening thing to do. But I may check out that video later on. If you want to come and chill out and just listen to some calm reading about deers being murdered. I'm spoilers, so I'll leave it. But I followed. Don't worry. No, it's okay, Mr. Bean. I hope to see you again soon. Yeah, I will probably check out that video later, unless I'm like, you know what? There's a question here. Do I want to dive down the Baki rabbit hole? Wait, I talk about the book Bambi, not the manga. No, there's not a manga Bambi. Is there? Is there a manga of Bambi? I just won't read the manga, but I still don't want spoilers. But fair enough. I misheard it. Ah, I see. Fair enough. But yeah, no, we're going to be doing a reading stream for the rest of it. So thank you for coming by, then, Mr. Bean. Yeah, you can't say there's no rabbit hole for Baki. There absolutely is a Baki rabbit hole. I already watched Super Eye Patch Wolf's video on it from a couple years ago, and have not dived into it since, and I'm afraid to. But you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe I need something now that the Shaman King will be laid to rest soon. Because apparently, Hiroyuki Take announced that Shaman King will no longer be getting more anything new for it after his current sequel for it is done. But yeah, that's okay. Let sleeping dogs lie. Anyway, yeah. Let's change the scene up a bit. There's no rabbit hole in Baki, just a schizophrenia universe. I think that is its own form of rabbit. That's more of a rabbit warren than anything else then. I'd still like to count it though. Whoa. That was incorrect. There we go. Much better. Much better. Excellent. Okay, so yeah. We're gonna be reading some Bambi here now. Just gonna turn this down. So yeah, so for anyone, actually, let's change the category as well. Category. Excellent. Let's just have a sip of water as well. Okay, so yeah. So for those who weren't here last time and want a bit of a catch up, because we are reading from chapter 20 onwards, there's only a little bit left of the book now, so hopefully we'll finish it tonight. But what happened last time was that Gobbo, the Faline's, so yeah, Bambi had two family members. I think they're cousins, Faline and Gobbo. He's now made a pair with Faline, and Gobbo was thought to have died many, many years ago now, I guess, within the time of the book, or many seasons ago, as it were. But Gobbo was alive, as it turns out. He was actually rescued by he, who we can assume to be humans. And he was like, oh, well, Gobbo was like, oh, well, there's nothing to be afraid of. He is very nice, and he looked after me very well. I'm not afraid of he. Only for the old stag, who Bambi looks up to be like, oh, you poor thing. You don't even... And everyone's like, what? Why? And Bambi's confused, like, why, great stag? Why is he a poor thing? I don't understand. Like, you will do one day. And this eventually led to them running into some humans. Like, oh god, he is here. We need to run. Like, and Gobbo said, no, there's no need to run. He is our friend. He is my friend. I will go to he. And Gobbo walked up and into a clearing where he was aiming their weapon and was shot, and Gobbo was killed by he. And that was where we left it. The last line was, she looked back once again and saw how he was bending over and seizing the wounded deer. Then they heard Gobbo's wailing death shriek. So yeah. That's where we're reading from for Bambi today. Chapter 20. Bambi was alone. He walked beside the water that ran swiftly among the reeds and swamp willows. He went there more and more often now that he was staying by himself. There were few trails there, and he hardly ever met any of his friends. That was just what he wanted, for his thoughts had grown serious and his heart heavy. He did not know what was happening within him. He did not even think about it. He merely recalled things aimlessly. And his whole life seemed to have become darker. He used to stand for hours on the bank. The current that flowed around a gentle bend there occupied his entire thought. The cool air from the ripples brought him strange, refreshing, acrid smells that aroused forgetfulness and a sense of trust in him. Bambi would stand and watch the ducks paddling, companionably together. They talked endlessly to one another in a friendly, serious, capable way. There were a couple of mother ducks, each with a flock of young ones around her. They were constantly teaching their young ones things, and the little ones were always learning them. Sometimes one or the other of the mothers would give a warning. Then the young ducks would dash off in all directions. They would scatter and glide away perfectly noiselessly. Bambi saw how the smallest ones, who could not fly yet, would paddle among the thicket rushes without moving a stem that might betray them by swaying. He would see the small, dark bodies creep here and there among the reeds. Then he could see nothing more. Later, one of the mothers would give a short call, and in a flash they would all flock around her again. In an instant, they would reassemble their flotilla and go on cruising quietly about as before. Bambi marvelled anew at each time. It was a constant source of wonder for him. After one such alarm, Bambi asked one of the mothers, "What was it?" "I was looking closely and didn't see anything." "Oh, it was nothing at all," answered the mother duck. Another time, one of the children gave the signal, turning like a flash and staring through the reeds. Presently, he came out on the bank, and Bambi was standing. "Oh, there wasn't anything," the young one replied, shaking its tail feathers in a grown-up way and carefully putting the tips of its wings in place. Then it paddled through the water again. Nevertheless, Bambi had faith in the ducks. He came to the conclusion that they were more watchful than he, that they heard and saw things more quickly. When he stood watching them, that ceaseless tension that he felt within himself at other times relaxed a little. He liked to talk with the ducks too. They didn't talk the nonsense that he had so often heard from the others. They talked about the broad skies and the wind, and our distant fields where they feasted on choice tidbits. From time to time, Bambi saw something that looked like a fiery streak in the air beside the brook. The hummingbird would cry softly, darting past with a tiny whirring speck. There was a gleam of green, a glow of red, as he flashed by and was gone. Bambi was thrilled and wanted to see the bright stranger near too. He called to him. "Don't bother calling to him," the sedge hen said to Bambi among the reed clumps. "Don't bother calling. He'll never answer you." "Where are you?" asked Bambi, peering among the reeds. But the sedge hen only laughed loudly from an entirely different place. "Here I am. That cranky creature you just called won't talk to anyone. It's useless to call him." "Oh, he's so handsome," said Bambi. "But bad," the sedge hen retorted from still another place. "What makes you think him bad?" Bambi inquired. The sedge hen answered from an altogether different place. "He doesn't care for anything or anybody. Let anything happen that wants to. He won't speak to anybody and never thanked anybody for speaking to him. He never gives anybody warning, and when there's danger, he never said a word to a living soul." "The poor," said Bambi. The sedge hen went on talking, and her cheery, piping voice sounded from the far side again. "He probably thinks that people are jealous of his silly markings and doesn't want them to get too good a look at him." "Certain other people don't let you get a look at them either," said Bambi. In a twinkling, the sedge hen was standing in front of him. "There's nothing to look at in my case," she said simply. Small and gleaming with water, she stood there in her sleek feathers, her trim figure restless, animated, and satisfied. In a flash, she was gone again. "I don't understand how people can stand so long in one spot," she called from the water, and added from the far side, "It's tiresome and dangerous to stay so long in one spot." Then, from the other side, she cried gaily, once or twice, "You have to keep moving," she cried happily. "You've got to keep moving if you want to keep whole and hearty." A soft rustling in the grass startled Bambi. He looked around. There was a reddish flash among the bushes. It disappeared in the reeds. At the same time, a sharp, warm smell reached his nostrils. The fox had slunk by. Bambi wanted to cry out and stamp on the ground as a warning, but the sedges rustled as the fox parted them in quick leaps. The water splashed and the duck screamed desperately. Bambi heard her wings flapping and saw her white body flash through the leaves. He saw, how her wings beat the fox's face with sharp blows. Then it grew still. At the same moment, the fox came out of the bushes, holding the duck in his jaws. Her neck hung down limply. Her wings were still moving, but the fox paid no attention to that. He looked sideways at Bambi with sneering eyes and crept slowly into the thicket. Bambi stood motionless. A few of the old ducks had flown up with a rush of wings and were flying around in a helpless fright. The sedge-hen was crying warnings from all directions, the titmice chirped excitedly in the bushes, and the young orphaned ducks splashed about the sedge, crying with soft voices. The hummingbird flew along the bank. "Please tell us," the young ducks cried. "Please tell us, have you seen our mother?" cried the hummingbird shrilly and flew past, sparkling. "What has she got to do with me?" Bambi turned around and went away. He wandered through a whole sea of goldenrod, passed through a grove of young beeches, crossed through old hazel thickets, until he reached the edge of the deep ditch. He roamed around it, hoping to meet the old stag. He'd not seen him for a long while. Not since Gobbo's death. Then he caught a glimpse of him from afar and ran to meet him. For a while they walked together in silence, and the old stag asked, "Well, do they still talk about him the way they used to?" Bambi understood that he referred to Gobbo and replied, "I don't know. I'm nearly alone now." He hesitated. "But I think of him very often." "Really?" said the old stag. "Are you alone now?" "Yes," said Bambi expectantly. But the old stag remained silent. They went on. Suddenly the old stag stopped. "Don't you hear anything?" he asked. Bambi listened. He didn't hear anything. "Come," cried the old stag and hurried forward. Bambi followed him. The stag stopped again. "Don't you hear anything yet?" he asked. Then Bambi heard a rustling that he did not understand. It sounded like branches being bent down and repeatedly springing up again. Something was beating the earth dully and irregularly. Bambi wanted to flee, but the old stag cried, "Come with me," and ran in the direction of the noise. Bambi, at his side, ventured to ask, "Isn't it dangerous?" "It's terribly dangerous," the old stag answered mysteriously. Soon they saw branches being pulled and tugged at from below and shaken violently. They went nearer and saw that a little trail ran through the middle of the bushes. Friend Hare was lying on the ground. He flung himself from side to side and writhed. Then he lay still and writhed again. Each of his motions pulled at the branches over him. Bambi noticed a dark, thread-like leash. It ran right from the branch of Friend Hare and was twisted around his neck. Friend Hare must have heard someone coming, for he flung himself wildly into the air and fell to the ground. He tried to escape and rolled, jerking and writhing in the grass. "Lie still," the old stag commanded. Then sympathetically, with a gentle voice that went to Bambi's heart, he repeated in his ear, "Be easy, friend, be easy. Friend Hare, it's I. Don't move now. Lie perfectly still." The hare lay motionless, flat on the ground. His throttled breath rattled softly in his throat. The old stag took the branch between his teeth and twisted it. He bent it down. Then he walked around, putting his weight cunningly against it. He held it to the earth with his hoof and snapped it with a single blow of his antlers. Then he nodded encouragingly to the hare. "Lie still," he said, "even if I hurt you." Holding his head on one side, he laid one prong of his antlers close to the hare's neck and pressed into the fur beneath it behind his ears. He made an effort and nodded. The hare began to writhe. The old stag immediately drew back. "Lie still," he commanded. "It's a question of life and death for you." He began over again. The hare lay still, gasping. Bambi stood close by, speechless with amazement. One of the old stag's antlers, pressing against the hare's fur, had slipped under the noose. The old stag was almost kneeling and twisting his head as though he were charging. He drove his antlers deeper and deeper under the noose, which gave at last and began to loosen. The hare could breathe again, and his terror and pain burst from him instantly. He cried bitterly. The old stag stopped. "Keep quiet," he cried, reproaching him gently. "Keep quiet." His mouth was close to the hare's shoulder. His antlers lay with a prong between the spoon-like ears. It looked as if he had spitted the hare. "How can you be so stupid as to cry at this time?" he grumbled gently. "Do you want the fox to come? Do you? I thought not. Keep quiet, then." He continued to work away, slowly exerting all his strength. Suddenly, the noose broke with a loud snap. The hare slipped out and was free, without realizing it for a moment. He took a step and sat down again, dazed. Then he hopped away. Slowly and timidly at first, then faster and faster. Presently, he was running with wild leaps. Bambi looked after him. "Without so much as a thank you," he exclaimed in surprise. "He is still terrified," said the old stag. The noose lay on the ground. Bambi touched it gently. It creaked, terrifying Bambi. That was a sound such as he had never heard in the woods. "He?" asked Bambi softly. The old stag nodded. They walked on together in silence. "Take care when you're going along a trail," said the old stag. "Test all the branches. Prod them on all sides of you with your antlers, and turn back at once if you hear that creak. And when you shed your antlers, be doubly cautious. I never use trails any more." Bambi sank into troubled thought. "He isn't here," he whispered to himself in profound astonishment. "No, he's not in the forest now," the old stag answered. "And yet he is here," said Bambi, shaking his head. The old stag went on, and his voice was full of bitterness. "How did your Gobo put it? Didn't Gobo tell you he is all-powerful and all-good?" "He was good to Gobo," Bambi whispered. The old stag stopped. "Do you believe that, Bambi?" he asked sadly. For the first time, he had called Bambi by his name. "I don't know," cried Bambi. I don't understand it." The old stag said slowly, "We must learn to live and be cautious." How did the old stag get so wise? How did he do it when all the other deer are nowhere near as wise as he? It's an interesting question. Mayhaps we'll find out. Mayhaps we won't. Maybe Bambi will learn from the old stag in the way that is good for him. Who knows? Chapter 21. One morning, Bambi came to grief. The pale grey dawn was just creeping through the forest. A milky white mist was rising from the meadow, and the stillness that precedes the coming of light was everywhere. The crows were not yet awake, nor the magpies. The jays were asleep. Bambi had met Valiant the night before. She looked sadly at him and was very shy. "I'm so much alone now," she said gently. "I'm alone too," Bambi answered with some hesitation. "Why don't you stay with me any more?" Faline asked sorrowfully, and it hurt him to see the gay and lively Faline so serious and downcast. "I want to be alone," he replied, and gently as he tried to say it, sounded hard. He felt it himself. Faline looked at him and asked softly, "Do you love me still?" "I don't know," Bambi answered in the same tone. She walked silently away from him, leaving him alone. He stood under the great oak at the meadow's edge and peered out cautiously, drinking in the pure and odorless morning air. It was moist and fresh from the earth, the dew, the grass, and the wet woods. Bambi breathed in great gulps of it. All at once his spirit felt freer than for a long time. He walked happily onto the mist-covered meadow. Then a sound like thunder crashed. Bambi felt a fearful blow that made him stagger. Mad with terror, he sprang into the thicket and kept running. He did not understand what had happened. He could not grasp a single idea. He could only keep running on and on. Fear gripped his heart so that his breath failed as he rushed blindly on. Then a killing pain shot through him, so that he felt that he could not bear it. He felt something hot running over his left shoulder. It was like a thin, burning thread coming from where the pain shot him. Bambi had to stop running. He was forced to walk slower. Then he saw that he was limping. He sank down. It was comfortable just to lie there and rest. "Up, Bambi! Get up!" The old stag was standing behind him and nudging his shoulder gently. Bambi wanted to answer. "I can't," the old stag repeated. "Up, up!" And there was such compulsion in his voice and such tenderness that Bambi kept silent. Even the pain that shot through him stopped for a moment. Then the old stag said hurriedly and anxiously, "Get up! You must get away, my son!" The words seemed to have escaped him. In a flash, Bambi was on his feet. "Good," said the old stag, breathing deeply and emphatically. "Come with me now, and keep close beside me." He walked swiftly ahead. Bambi followed him, but he felt a burning desire to let himself drop to the ground, to lie still and rest. The old stag seemed to guess it, and talked to him without stopping. "Now you'll have to bear every pain. You can't think of lying down now. You mustn't think of it even for a moment. That's enough to tire you in itself. You must save yourself. Do you understand me? Bambi, save yourself, or else you are lost. Just remember that. He is behind you. Do you understand, Bambi? And he will kill you without mercy. Come on, keep close to me. You'll soon be all right. You must be all right." Bambi had no strength left to think with. The pain shot through him at every step he took. It took away his breath and his consciousness. The hot trickle burning his shoulder seared him like some deep, heartfelt trouble. The old stag made a wide circle. It took a long time. Through his veil of pain and weakness, Bambi was amazed to see that they were passing the great oak again. The old stag stopped and snuffed the ground. "He's still here," he whispered. "It's he. And that's his dog. Come along, faster." They ran. Suddenly, the old stag stopped again. "Look," he said. "That's where you lay on the ground." Bambi saw the crushed grasses, where a wide pool of his own blood was soaking into the earth. The old stag snuffed warily around the spot. "They were here. He and his dog," he said. "Come along." He went ahead, slowly, sniffing again and again. Bambi saw the red drops gleaming on the leaves, the bushes, and the grass stems. "We passed here before," he thought. "No, we passed here before," he thought, but he couldn't speak. "Aha," said the old stag, and seemed almost joyful. "We're behind them now." He continued for a while on the same path. Then he doubled unexpectedly and began a new circle. Bambi staggered after him. For the second time they passed the place where Bambi had fallen down. Then the old stag went in still another direction. "Eat that," he commanded suddenly, stopping and pushing aside the grasses. He pointed to a pair of short, dark green leaves growing close together near the ground. Bambi obeyed. They tasted terribly bitter and smelled sickeningly. "How do you feel now?" the stag asked after a while. "Better," Bambi answered quickly. He was suddenly able to speak again. His senses had cleared and his fatigue grew less. "Let's move on again," the old stag commanded after another pause. After Bambi had been following him for a long time, he said, "At last." They stopped. The bleeding has stopped, said the old stag. "The blood stopped flowing from your wound. It isn't emptying your veins now, and it can't betray you anymore either. It can't show him and his dog where to find you and kill you." The old stag looked worried and tired, but his voice sounded joyful. "Come along," he went on. "Now you can rest." They reached a wide ditch which Bambi had never crossed. The old stag climbed down, and Bambi tried to follow him, but it cost him a great effort to climb the steep slope on the farther side. The pain began to shoot violently through him again. He stumbled, regained his feet, and stumbled again, breathing hard. "I can't help you," said the old stag. "You'll have to get up yourself." Bambi reached the top. He felt the hot trickle on his shoulder again. He felt his strength ebbing for the second time. "You're bleeding again," said the old stag. "I thought you would. But it's only a little," he added in a whisper. "It doesn't make any difference now." They walked very slowly through a grove of lofty beeches. The ground was soft and level. They walked easily on it. Bambi felt a longing to lie down there, to stretch out and never move his limbs again. He couldn't go any farther. His head ached. There was a humming in his ears. His nerves were quivering, and fever began to rack him. There was a darkness before his eyes. He felt nothing but a desire for rest and detached amazement at finding his life so unchanged and shattered. He remembered how he had walked whole and uninjured through the woods that morning. It was barely an hour ago, and it seemed to him like some memory out of a distant, long-vanished past. They passed through a scrub oak and dogwood thicket. A huge, hollow beech trunk, thickly entangled with the bushes, lay right in front of him, barring the way. "Here we are," Bambi heard the old stag saying. He walked along the beech trunk, and Bambi walked beside him. He nearly fell into a hollow that lay in front of him. "Here it is," said the old stag at that moment. "You can lie down here." Bambi sank down and did not move again. The hollow was still deeper under the beech trunk and formed a little chamber. The bushes closed thickly across the top, so that whoever was within lay hidden. "You'll be safe here," said the old stag. Days passed. Bambi lay on the warm earth, with the mouldering bark of the fallen tree above him. He felt his pain intensify and then grow less and less until it died away more and more gently. Sometimes he would creep out and stand swaying weakly on his unsteady legs. He would take a few steps to look for food. He ate plants now that he had never noticed before. Now they appealed to his taste and attracted him by their strange, enticing, acrid smell. Everything that he had disdained before and would spit out if he got accidentally in his mouth seemed appetizing to him. He still disliked many of the little leaves and short, coarse shoots, but he ate them anyway, as though he were compelled to, and his wound healed faster. He felt his strength returning. He was cured, but he didn't leave the hollow yet. He walked around a little at night, but lay quietly on his bed by day. Not until the fever had entirely left his body did Bambi begin to think over all that had happened to him. Then a great terror awoke in him, and a profound tremor passed through his heart. He could not shake himself free of it. He could not get up and run about as before. Ashamed and he lay still and troubled. He felt terrified, ashamed, amazed, and troubled by turns. Sometimes he was full of despair, at others of joy. The old stag was always with him. At first he stayed day and night at Bambi's side. Then he left him alone at times, especially when he saw Bambi deep in thought. But he always kept close at hand. One night there was thunder and lightning, and a downpour of rain. Although the sky was clear and the setting sun was streaming down. The blackbirds sang loudly in all the neighbouring treetops, the finches warbled, the titmice chirped in the bushes. Among the grasses, or from under the bushes, the metallic, throaty cackling of the pheasant sounded at intervals. The woodpecker laughed exultantly, and the doves cooed their fervid love. Bambi crept out of the hollow. Life was beautiful. The old stag was standing there as though he expected Bambi. They sauntered on together. I did not expect Bambi to fall victim to a shooting like that, but I'm glad he's alive. I'm just going to take 2 seconds just to have a little stretch. I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Let's just get straight into chapter 22. One night, when the air was whispering with the autumnal fall of leaves, the screech owl shrieked piercingly among the branches. Then he waited. But Bambi had spied him already through his thinning leaves and stopped. The screech owl flew nearer and shrieked louder. Then he waited again. But Bambi did not say anything. Then the owl could restrain himself no longer. "Aren't you frightened?" he asked, displeased. "Well," Bambi replied, "a little." "Is that so?" the screech owl cooed in an offended tone. "Only a little. Used to get terribly frightened. It was really a pleasure to see how frightened you'd get. For some reason or another, you're only a little frightened now." He grew angry and repeated, "Only a little." The screech owl was getting old, and that was why he was so much vainer and so much more sensitive than before. Bambi wanted to answer, "I wasn't ever frightened before either," but he decided to keep that to himself. He was sorry to see the good old screech owl sitting there so angry. He tried to soothe him. "Maybe it's because I thought of you right away," he said. "What?" said the screech owl, becoming happy again. "You really did think of me?" "Oh, yes," Bambi answered with some hesitation. As soon as I heard your screech. Otherwise, of course, I'd have been as scared as ever." "Really?" cooed the owl. Bambi hadn't the heart to deny it. What difference did it make anyhow? Let the little old child enjoy himself. "I really did," he assured him, and went on. "I'm so happy, for a thrill goes through me when I hear you so suddenly." The screech owl fluffed up his feathers into a soft brownish-grey downy ball. He was happy. "It's nice of you to think of me," he cooed tenderly. "Very nice. We haven't seen each other for a long time." "A very long time," said Bambi. "You don't use the old trails anymore, do you?" "No," the screech owl inquired. "No," said Bambi slowly. "I don't use the old trails anymore." "I'm also seeing more of the world than I used to." The screech owl observed boastfully. He didn't mention that he had been driven from his old hereditary haunts by a pitiless younger rival. "You can't stay forever in the same spot," he added. Then he waited for an answer. But Bambi had gone away. By now he understood, almost as well as the old stag, how to disappear suddenly and noiselessly. The screech owl was provoked. "It's a shame," he cooed to himself. He shook his feathers, sank his bill deep into his breast, and silently philosophized. "I should never imagine you can be friends with great folks. They can be as nice as pie, but when the time comes, they haven't a thought for you, and you're left sitting stupidly by yourself, as I'm sitting here now." Suddenly, he dropped to the earth like a stone. He'd spied a mouse. It squeaked once in his talons. He tore it to pieces, for he was furious. He crammed the little morsel faster than usual. Then he flew off. "What do all your great folks mean to me?" he asked. "Not a thing." He began to screech so piercingly and so ceaselessly that a pair of wood doves whom he passed awoke and fled from their roost with loud wing beats. The storm swept the woods for several days and tore the last leaves in the branches. Then the trees stood stripped. Bambi was wandering homeward in the grey dawn in order to sleep in the hollow with the old stag. A shrill voice called him once or twice in quick succession. He stopped. Then the squirrel scampered down from the branches in a twinkling and sat on the ground in front of him. "Is it really you?" he shrilled, surprised and delighted. I recognized you the minute you passed me, but I couldn't believe... Where did you come from? Asked Bambi. The merry little face in front of him grew quite troubled. The oak is gone, he began plaintively. No, plaintively, yeah. My beautiful old oak. Do you remember it? It was awful. He chopped it down. Bambi hung his head sadly. His very soul felt sorry for the wonderful old tree. As soon as it happened, Squirrel related, everybody who lived in the tree fled and watched how he bit through the trunk with a gigantic, flashing tooth. The tree groaned aloud when it was wounded. It kept on groaning, and the tooth kept gnawing. Oh, it was dreadful to hear it. Then the poor, beautiful tree fell out on the meadow. Everybody cried. Bambi was silent. Yes, sighed the squirrel. He can do anything. He's all-powerful. He gazed at Bambi out of his big eyes and pointed ears, but Bambi kept silent. Then we were all homeless, the squirrel went on. I don't even know where the others scattered to. I came here, but I won't find another tree like that in a hurry. The old oak, said Bambi to himself. I knew it from the time I was a child. Oh well, said the squirrel. But to think it's really you, he went on delightedly. Everybody said you must be dead long ago. Oh, of course, there were some people who now and then who said you were still alive. Once in a while, someone said he'd seen you. Nobody could find out anything definite. And so I thought it was only gossip. The squirrel gazed at him inquisitively. Since you didn't come back any more. Bambi could see how curious he was, and how he was fishing for an answer. Bambi kept silent. What a gentle, anxious curiosity was stirring in him too. He wanted to ask about Faline, about Aunt Enna and Ronno and Carus, about all his childhood companions. But he kept silent. The squirrel sat still in front of him, studying him. What antlers! He cried admiringly. What antlers! Nobody in the whole forest could get the old prince's antlers like that. Once, Bambi would have felt elated and flattered by such praise, but he only said, Maybe. The squirrel nodded quickly with his head. Really, he said, surprised. You're beginning to get grey. Bambi wandered on. The squirrel perceived that the conversation was over and sprang through the bushes. Good day, he shouted down. Goodbye. I'm very glad I met you. If I see any of your acquaintances, I'll tell them you're still alive. They'll all be glad. Bambi heard him and again felt that gentle stirring in his heart. But he said nothing. When he was still a child, the old stag had taught him that he must live alone. Then and afterward, the old stag had revealed much wisdom and many secrets to him. But of all his teachings, this had been the most important. You must live alone. If you wanted to preserve yourself, if you understood existence, if you wanted to attain wisdom, you had to live alone. But, Bambi had once objected, we two are always together now. Not for very much longer, the old stag had answered quickly. That was a few weeks ago. Now it occurred to Bambi again, and he suddenly remembered how even the old stag's very first words to him had been about singleness. That day, when Bambi was still a child, calling for his mother, the old stag had come to him and asked him, Can't you stay by yourself? Bambi wandered on. Oh, poor Bambi. Poor Bambi. The poor fellow. Chapter 23. Actually, tell you what. I'm just going to get some more water, actually, so I'll just be back in just a moment. Hi again. Okay. Let's get back to it. We're almost done with the book now, actually. How many chapters are there left? Like 4 or 5? I think 3 or 4, actually. Oh, 3 chapters left. We can get through this in the next, like, 20 minutes, so I should think. Chapter 23. The forest was again under snow, lying silent beneath its deep white mantle. Only the crow's calls could be heard. Now and then came a magpie's noisy chattering, and the soft twittering of the titmice sounded timidly. Then the frost hardened, and everything grew still. The air began to hum with the cold. One morning, a dog's baying broke the silence. It was a continuous, hurrying bay that pressed on quickly through the woods, eager and clear and hurrying with loud yelps. Bambi raised his head in the hollow under the fallen tree and looked at the old stag who was lying beside him. "That's nothing," said the old stag, in answer to Bambi's glance. "Nothing that need bother us." Still, they both listened. They lay in their hollow, with the old beech trunk like a sheltering roof above them. The deep snow kept the icy draught from them, and the tangled bushes hid them from curious eyes. The baying grew nearer. It was angry and panting and relentless. It sounded like the bark of a small hound. It came constantly closer. Then they heard panting of another kind. They heard a low, laboured snarling under the angry barking. Bambi grew uneasy, but the old stag quieted him again. "We don't need to worry about it," he said. They lay silent in their warm hollow and peered out. The footsteps drew nearer and nearer through the branches. The snow dropped from the shaken boughs, and clouds of it rose in the air. Through the snow, and over the roots and branches the fox came springing, crouching and slinking. They were right. A little, short-legged hound was after him. One of the fox's forelegs was crushed, and the fur torn around it. He held his shattered paw in front of him, and blood poured from his wound. He was gasping for breath. His eyes were staring with terror and exertion. He was beside himself with rage and fear. He was desperate and exhausted. Once in a while, he would face around and snarl so that the dog was startled and would fall back a few steps. Presently, the fox sat down on his haunches. He could go no farther. Raising his mangled forepaw pitifully, his jaws open and his lips drawn back, he snarled at the dog. But the dog was never silent for a minute. His high, rasping bark only grew fuller and deeper. "Here," he yapped. "Here he is! Here he is! Here, here, here!" He was not abusing the fox. He was not even speaking to him, but was urging on someone who was still far behind. Bambi knew as well as the old stag did, that it was he the dog was calling. The fox knew it too. The blood was streaming down from him and fell down from his breast into the snow, making a fire-red spot on the icy white surface, steaming and steaming slowly. A weakness overcame the fox. His crushed foot sank down helpless, but a burning pain shot through it when it touched the cold snow. He lifted it again with an effort and held it quivering in front of him. "Let me go," said the fox, beginning to speak. "Let me go." He spoke softly and beseechingly. He was quite weak and despondent. "No, no, no," the dog howled. The fox pleaded still more insistently. "We're relations," he replied. "We're brothers almost. Let me go home. Let me die with my family at least. We're brothers almost, you and I." "No, no, no," the dog raged. Then the fox rose so that he was sitting perfectly erect. He dropped his handsome pointed muzzle on his bleeding breast and raised his eyes and stared the dog straight in the face in a completely altered voice, restrained and embittered. He growled, "Aren't you ashamed, you traitor?" "No, no, no," yelped the dog. But the fox went on. "You turncoat, you renegade." His maimed body was taut with contempt and hatred. "You spy," he hissed. "You blackguard. You track us where he could never find us. You betray us, your own relations, me, who am almost your brother. And you stand there and aren't ashamed." Instantly, many other voices sounded loudly round about. "Traitor!" cried the magpie from the tree. "Spy!" shrieked the jay. "Blackguard!" the weasel hissed. "Renegade!" snarled the ferret. From every tree and bush came chirpings, peeping shrills, while overheard the crows called, "Spy! Spy!" Everyone had rushed up, and from the trees or from the safe hiding places on the ground, they watched the contest. The fury that had burst from the fox released an embittered anger in them all, and the blood spilled on the snow that steamed before their eyes, maddened them, and made them forget all caution. The dog stared around him. "Who are you?" he yelped. "What do you want? What do you know about it? What are you talking about? Everything belongs to him, just as I do. But I love him. I worship him. I serve him. Do you think you can oppose him, poor creatures like you? He's all-powerful. He's above all of you. Everything we have comes from him. Everything that lives or grows comes from him." The dog was quivering with exultation. "Traitor!" cried the squirrel shrilly. "Yes, traitor," hissed the fox. "Nobody's a traitor but you. Only you." The dog was dancing about in a frenzy of devotion.
Only me, he cried. You lie. Aren't there many, many others on his side? The horse, the cow, the sheep, the chickens. Many, many of you and your kind are on his side, and worship him, and serve him.
The rabble, snarled the fox, full of boundless contempt. Then the dog could contain himself no longer, and sprang at the fox's throat. Growling, spitting, and yelping, they rolled in the snow, a writhing, savagely snapping mass from which fair flew. The snow rose in clouds and was spattered with fine drops of blood. At last, the fox could not fight any more. In a few seconds, he was lying on his back, his white belly uppermost. He twitched and stiffened and died. The dog shook him a few times, then let him fall on the trampled snow. He stood beside him, his legs planted, calling in a deep, loud voice.
Here! Here! He's here!
The others were horror-struck and fled in all directions. Dreadful, said Bambi softly to the old stag in the hollow. The most dreadful part of all, the old stag answered, is that the dog believes what the hound has just said. They believe it. They pass their lives in fear. They hate him and themselves. And yet they die for his sake. That was heavy. Gone down. You know what? Let's just power through until the end of it. No rest for the wicked. Chapter 24. The cold broke, and there was a warm spell in the middle of the winter. The earth drank great draughts of the melting snows, that wide stretches of soil were everywhere visible. So that the wide stretches of soil were everywhere visible, even. Apologies. The blackbirds were not singing yet, but when they flew from the ground where they were hunting worms, or when they fluttered from tree to tree, they uttered a long-drawn, joyous whistle that was almost a song. The woodpecker began to chatter now and then. Magpies and crows grew more talkative. The titmice chirped more cheerily, and the pheasants, swooping down from their roosts, would stand in one spot, preening their feathers and uttering their metallic, throaty cacklings. One such morning, Bambi was roaming around as usual. In the grey dawn, he came to the edge of the hollow, on the other side where he had lived before something was staring. On the farther side, where he had lived before something was staring. Bambi stayed hidden in the thicket and peered across. A deer was wandering slowly to and fro, looking for places where the snow had melted, and cropping wherever grasses had sprung up early. Bambi wanted to turn at once and go far away, for he recognized Falloon. His first impulse was to spring forward and call her, but he stood as though rooted to the spot. He had not seen Falloon for a long time. His heart began to beat faster. Falloon moved slowly across, as though she were tired and sad. She resembled her mother now. She looked as old as Aunt Enna, as Bambi noticed with a strangely pained surprise. Falloon lifted her head and gazed across as though she sensed his presence. Again, Bambi started forward, but he stopped again, hesitating and unable to stare. he saw that Faline had grown old and grey. Gay, pert little Faline. How lovely she used to be, he thought, and how lively! His whole youth suddenly flashed before his eyes. The meadow, the trails where he walked with his mother, the happy games with Gobbo and Faline, the nice grasshoppers and butterflies, the fight with Carus and Ronno, and when he won Faline for his own. He felt happy again, and yet he trembled. Faline wandered on, her head drooped to the ground, walking slowly, sadly, and wearily away. At that moment, Bambi loved her with an overpowering, tender melancholy. He wanted to rush through the hollow that separated them from the others. He wanted to overtake her, to talk with her, to talk to her about their youth and about everything that had happened. He gazed after her as she went off, passing under the bare branches, till finally she was lost to sight. He stood there for a long time, staring after her. Then there was a crash like thunder. Bambi shrank together. It came from where he was standing, not even from a little way off, but right beside him. There was a second thunderclap, and right after that, another. Bambi leaped a little far into the thicket, then stopped and listened. Everything was still. He glided stealthily homeward. The old stag was there before him. He had not laid down yet, but was standing beside the fallen beech trunk expectantly. "Where have you been so long?" he asked, so seriously that Bambi grew silent. "Did you hear it?" the old stag went on after a pause. "Yes," Bambi answered. 3 times. "He must be in the woods." "Of course," the old stag nodded, and repeated with a peculiar intonation, "He is in the woods, and we must go." "Where?" The word escaped Bambi. "Where he is now," said the old stag, and his voice was solemn. Bambi was terrified. "Don't be frightened," the old stag went on. "Come with me and don't be frightened. I'm glad that I can take you and show you the way." He hesitated and added softly, "Before I go." Bambi looked wonderingly at the old stag, and suddenly he noticed how aged he looked. His head was completely grey now, his face perfectly gaunt. The deep light was extinguished in his eyes, and they had a feeble, greenish lustre and seemed to be blind. Bambi and the old stag had not gone far before they caught the first whiff of that acrid smell that sent such dread and terror to their hearts. I'll use the word acrid today. Bambi stopped, but the old stag went on directly toward the scent. Bambi followed hesitantly. The terrifying scent grew stronger and stronger, but the old stag kept on without stopping. The idea of flight sprang up in Bambi's mind and tugged at his heart. It seethed through his mind and body and nearly swept him away, but he kept a firm grip on himself and stayed close behind the old stag. Then the horrible scent grew so strong that it drowned out everything else, and it was hardly possible to breathe. "Here he is," said the old stag, moving to one side. Through the bare branches, Bambi saw him lying on the trampled snow a few steps away. An irresistible burst of terror swept over Bambi, and with a sudden bound he started to give in to his impulse to flee. "Halt!" he heard the old stag calling. Bambi looked around and saw the stag standing calmly where he was lying on the ground. Bambi was amazed. and moved by a sense of obedience, a boundless curiosity, and quivering expectancy. He went closer.
"Come near," said the old stag. "Don't be afraid."
He was lying, with his pale, naked face turned upward, his hat a little to one side on the snow. Bambi, who did not know anything about hats, thought his horrible head was split in two. The poacher's shirt, open at the neck, was pierced where a wound gaped like a small red mouth. Blood was oozing out slowly. Blood was drying on his hair and around his nose. A big pool of it lay on the snow, which was melting from the warmth.
"We can stand right beside him," his old stag began softly. "And it isn't dangerous."
Bambi looked down at the prostrate form, whose limbs and skin seemed so mysterious and terrible to him. He gazed at the dead eyes that stared up sightlessly at him. Bambi couldn't understand it at all.
"Bambi," the old stag went on, "do you remember what Gobbo said, and what the dog said, and what they all think? Do you remember?"
Bambi could not answer.
"Do you see, Bambi?" the old stag went on. "Do you see how he's lying there dead, like one of us? Listen, Bambi. He isn't all-powerful, as they say. Everything that lives and grows doesn't come from him. He isn't above us. He's just the same as we are. He has the same fears, the same needs, and suffers in the same way. He can be killed, like us, and then he lies helpless on the ground, like all the rest of us, as you see him now."
There was a silence.
"Do you understand me, Bambi?" asked the old stag.
"I think so," Bambi said in a whisper.
"Then speak," the old stag commanded.
Bambi was inspired, and said, trembling, "There is another who is over us all, over us, and over him."
"Now I can go," said the old stag.
He turned away, and they wandered side by side for a stretch. Presently, the old stag stopped in front of a tall oak.
"Don't follow me any farther, Bambi," he began with a calm voice. "My time is up. Now I have to look for a resting place."
Bambi tried to speak.
"Don't," said the old stag, cutting him short. "Don't. In the hour which I am approaching, we are all alone. Goodbye, my son. I loved you dearly."
That's so sad. I guess it's the way of things, though, isn't it? All things must come to an end. You and I, he and the deer. Well, speaking of end, we're at the end of the book now. Final chapter. Chapter 25. Dawn of the summer's day came hot, without a breath of wind or the usual morning chill. The sun seemed to come up faster than usual. It rose swiftly and flashed like a torch with dazzling rays. The dew on the meadows and bushes was drawn up in an instant. The earth was perfectly dry, so that the clods crumbled. The forest had been still from an early hour. Only a woodpecker hammered now and then, or the doves cooed their tireless, fervid tenderness. Bambi was standing in a little clearing, forming a narrow glade in the heart of the thicket. A swarm of midges danced and hummed around his head in the warm sunshine. There was a low buzzing among the leaves of the hazel bushes near Bambi, and a big May beetle crawled out and flew slowly by. He flew among the midges, up and up, till he reached the tree-top, where he intended to sleep till evening. His wing covers folded down down hard and neatly, and his wings vibrated with strength. The midges divided to let the May beetle pass through, and closed behind him again. His dark brown body, over which shone the vibrant glassy shimmer of his whirring wings, flashed for a moment in the sunshine as he disappeared. "Did you see him?" the midges asked each other. "There's the old May beetle," some of them hummed. Others said, "All of his offspring are dead. Only one is still alive. Only one." "How long will he live?" a number of midges asked. The others answered, "We don't know. Some of his offspring live a long time. They live forever, almost. They see the sun 30 or 40 times. We don't know exactly how many. Our lives are long enough, but we see the daylight only once or twice." "How long has the old beetle been living?" some very small midges asked. "He's outlived his whole family. He's as old as the hills, as old as the hills. He's been more and more through. He's seen more and more, been through more and more in this world than we can even imagine." Bambi walked on. "Midge buzzings," he thought. "Midge buzzings." A delicate, frightened call came to his ears. He listened and went closer, perfectly softly, keeping among the thickest bushes and moving noiselessly, as he had long known how to do. The call came again, more urgent, more plaintively. Fawns' voices were wailing, "Mother, mother!" Bambi glided through the bushes and followed the calls. Two fawns were standing side by side in their little red coats, a brother and sister, forsaken and despondent. "Mother, mother!" they called. Before they knew what had happened, Bambi was standing in front of them. They stared at him, speechlessly. "Your mother has no time for you now," said Bambi severely. He looked into the little brother's eyes. "Can't you stay by yourself?" he asked. The little brother and sister were silent. Bambi turned and, gliding into the bushes, disappeared before they had come to their senses. He walked along. "The little fellow pleases me," he thought. "Perhaps I'll meet him again when he's larger." He walked along. "The little girl is nice too," he thought. "Valine looked like that when she was a fawn." He went on and vanished into the forest. Well, that's the end of the book. I guess it's just all about life, isn't it? The cyclical nature of life and how none of us are exempt from anything. There's a comfort in it. There's also a deep fear in it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, though. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. Anyway, I hope if there's anyone listening still, that you guys have enjoyed it, if you're new or old, if you've been listening in the past on these kind of streams, I certainly hope you've enjoyed my ventures into Bambi. And I've liked doing it. I've liked doing reading streams like this. It's very comforting and cozy for me. I'm hoping to do the Odyssey starting this week now. Maybe I'll do it next week. I don't know. I've got it scheduled for this week, but yeah. I think we're gonna stream there though, folks, because that's the end of it now. Gonna be back on Wednesday, I believe, with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, and yeah, then maybe Friday with Odyssey. With the Odyssey, yeah. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there for today. Thank you all so much for coming by. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Keep well, stay safe, eat lots of good food, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye. Keep safe. Keep safe.